I'm a child of hip hop, and you are a soundtrack to my life. And like I said, I'm a fan of hip hop, and I'm a fan of music, and I'm a fan of learning. And you guys brought, as Public Enemy as a whole, y'all brought so much into existence and filled a void that was, we didn't have this.
Same thing in rap and music and hip hop with me. Hip hop and rap music stands on the shoulders of musical and cultural giants anyway. And I grew up in the Stax Atlantic, Motown, household James Brown, Nina Simone. They were like aunts and uncles in the crib anyway.
Did you know at the time, Chuck, with everything that was going on, that this would be something, a tool that you would use as well and continue the lessons that you learned so we can learn them as well?
There was no hip hop when I was coming up.
Right.
I was a college sophomore when the first hip hop record came out, and that was Rapper's Delight era of '79. I was on the mic, rhyming on the mic to Good Times. I hear words coming behind me, and I decided to lip sync the rest of the 15 minutes. The record labels wasn't doing that. They was split up, we can't have my song with that label over there. The independent companies were like, yeah, we together, but we ain't. And the majors like, we get no profit off of those cassettes unless we sell an album. Oh wow, we could sell an album and still make the same cassettes. So that whole science has something to do, not to get long-winded, in the how hip-hop and went from singles into albums.
Chuck, when you go in, is the music and the message, is that intentional?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think the music and the message are intentional because you should exude who you are. What's inside you, a songwriter. Why are you going to write something different? It's one thing to fantasize, and that's cool. But if you want people to believe the fantasy instead of yourself,
Right.
that gets into a shaky place. And be a fictional writer. Yeah.
Chuck,
Yep.
welcome, brother. Hey, man. Oh, I've been waiting on this one. Man, if there's a reason why I created this thing called Big Boy Off Air, and you are a perfect example of why this is so important to me, bro. Now,
It's wonderful you're doing. I mean, I had been here before, but just also seeing the upstage and the beautiful aesthetic and the
thank you,
decor and your thing being your thing.
oh man, we did this all because we knew you were coming. Okay, we didn't, but we knew that. I knew one day I was gonna get you in here. But first off, bro, I gotta say thank you for coming in and even just hanging with us, man.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, Chuck, bro, like I'm a child of hip hop, and you are a soundtrack to my life. And that's why it's crazy that I'm sitting here, because I bought tickets. I purchased tickets to go see Public Enemy. I've had some of the worst seats at y'all concerts.
Uh-oh.
But I love being in the building.
Yes,
you know what I'm
sir.
saying? It's a different thing with Big Boy now.
Yes, sir.
But I purchased because I'm a fan first, bro. And like I said, I'm a fan of hip hop, and I'm a fan of music, and I'm a fan of learning. And you guys brought, as Public Enemy as a whole, y'all brought so much into existence and filled a void that was, we didn't have this beforehand. We had it in certain people and certain movements, but we never really had that much in hip hop, bro. And you're a creator when it comes to hip hop. What did you kind of grow up on? Because when they say hip hop celebrated 50 years, professionally, you're way more than half of that. You know what I'm saying? So what did you grow up on, Chuck?
Well, you stand on the shoulders of giants, and I like to thank you for, when I came in here, I call this the place of thrones.
Thank you, brother.
A lot of people have sat on these thrones that you bestowed upon us. So you always got to understand that you stand on the shoulders of giants. And I learned that from Cap, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, on his whole thing he put together for where he came from as far as basketball player to become who he is, to be a GOAT. Same thing in rap and music and hip hop with me. Hip hop and rap music stands on the shoulders of musical and cultural giants anyway. And because its strength came through records. And I grew up in the Stax Atlantic, Motown, household. James Brown, Nina Simone, they were like aunts and uncles in the crib anyway. So there was a reverence going on with the music they played that my mother, mainly she was playing, although my dad is part of the Columbia Jazz male club where they're sitting
Right,
there.
right,
But
right.
he wasn't really into music. That's where I got my sports side from.
Mm-hmm.
But my mom's, like all that. What are these big, gigantic black things that you put in a box that make sounds? So from
Mm-hmm.
that age on, from 1960, my age covered the whole decade, the turbulent 60s, to go from Negro to colored to Black is Beautiful. And the soundtrack at the particular time reflected in the status that we aspired to get to. So that's the foundation. Finding out and seeing things when I'm 12 and 13 years old on the cusp right before hip hop, like Watts Stacks.
Mm-hmm.
Here I'm 3,000 miles away. What's Watts Stacks? What's Watts and Stacks? We were hip enough to know that the rebellions weren't riots, and what had happened in Harlem, then 3 years later in Newark, New Jersey, 4 years later in um, 4 years later in Detroit, then Dr. Martin Luther King's assassination in Memphis. Then we have Jet and Ebony. Then you got the Black Panther Party coming out of Stokely Carmichael saying Black Power. And we will talk about Free Huey. Angela Davis goes to this place called Euclid. That's the same place that Lou Alcindor goes to, Euclid. What does Euclid mean? We getting all this in the process. You got Watts Stacks, and in 1973, they said that New York should be left for dead and hell with the Bronx. It
Mm-hmm.
should die too. And out of those ashes comes somebody making something out of nothing, making wine out of water. Saying no different than somebody coming up from Mississippi up to Chicago and electrifying the blues and making that something, the prelude to rock and roll. So, because we were silenced as a people, the music spoke loud all the time. You only got to teach Black history. All you got to do is take about 100 years of records, because those are the
Right.
documents, and just listen to them. And if you listen to them up to a certain time, you get black history by default. This is one of the reasons why somebody and something out there found it beneficial to kind of take culture out of the schools. Sports teams are still there, so we could bang out in sports, but the culture and the grooves and the music and the acting and the playing, and all that stuff and the literature and all that, we're going to kind of either hide it in the library where the lies are buried or just
Mm.
move it out entirely. So the music was always strong. That's what I grew up into.
Did you know at the time that you were soaking in so much? You know how to say, oh man, that was my tuition into the school of experience. Did you know at the time, Chuck, with everything that was going on, that this would be something, a tool that you would use as well and continue the lessons that you learned so we can learn them as well?
There was no hip hop when I was coming up.
Right.
I was a college sophomore when the first hip hop record came out, and that was Rappers Delight era, '79. I was on the mic, rhyming on the mic to Good Times. I hear words coming behind me, and I decided to lip sync the rest of the 15 minutes.
Right.
I look at the DJ, and I'm like, what the hell? And he showed me Rappers Delight, Red Label.
So that was your introduction to Rappers Delight, kind of? Because you know how we
Yeah,
was
yeah, that was
flipping.
my introduction to Rappers Delight.
Because we thinking, good times. You're like, oh, we know this.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
you say you heard lyrics. You're like, wait, hold on.
Yeah, yeah, and I was nice. At Delphi University, I would get on the mic just to sit. They had open mic, but everybody thought they could rhyme, especially if you came from the city. I'm from Long Island, which is all the same place, but you divided by borders and city lines and country lines and stuff like that. And I claim that, I own that. But then everybody at the school would come from Brooklyn, the Bronx, Manhattan and whatnot, and they think just because they grew up with it being compressed in that area, they automatically good. I'm like, you ain't Eddie Cheeba,
Right,
but it's
right.
open mic. So I'll be dancing because, like I want to dance, you know what I'm saying? This is dance culture, this is dance activity. That's what black music did. We learned to even magnify that from what was happening 3,000 miles away. And what was that?
What's that, Soul
Soul
Train?
Train. I mean, Soul Train just like reiterated and reminded us black folks, if it's good, it gonna move you. move that body with that head. You know, it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't just head nodding. If you were a DJ, get your ass up off that wall. Let's get down. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, this 1979. Disco was good in the beginning because it
Right.
just was a different Earl Young type of rhythm. So here I am dancing and whatnot, and all you need is a whack cat on the mic that disturb a groove. Then the girl, I ain't one of the pretty boys, so you got to have game just to say we feel like dancing. All it takes is a whack DJ and a whack MC to have somebody like, I don't want to dance no more. Man, you killing my game. So I would just joke and say, you know what? I'm going to get on the mic just to sit whack MCs down and not have nobody want to touch the mic. And so after a couple weeks, I get on that mic. Sure enough, there'll be a line behind me. They sitting their ass down. Go and dance, because you ain't gonna be like this on the mic.
Did you know what you were doing then? You know how when we
I
say,
wanted to be I want to be a sportscaster. So I automatically, through genetics and through elocution, get on that mic. And you know, like what they say, a camera makes somebody look good?
yeah,
I made the mic. I made a Radio Shack mic sound like $1 million. They be like tapping it after they get the mic after they say, damn, he made that microphone sound like $1 million. Therefore, I'm in step with the DJ. We rocking the party. I don't need bars. All I gotta say, yeah, baby. And they look, so you learn that from the DJs at the time, whether it's like Magnificent Montague out here, or Frankie Crocker in the East, or Herb Kent in Chicago. You learn how to really marry the mic. And back then, hip hop, man, it was about keeping the groove. So people heard me. Hank Shockley heard me. He said, was that you on that mic? Because earlier, we from the same town. I said, I grew up as an artist and an illustrator. And I was a big Spectrum fan of Hank Shockley in our town. And I said, at the end of a gig, it was hardly nobody there. I told him, I said, listen, nobody here, not because y'all ain't good. The flyer's whack. If I do a flyer on y'all gratis, y'all have people in there, because people want to look at something and they want to go to, after they look at it. But your flyer right now got somebody scribbling something. They don't even know what this is, much less know where to go to. And that's how we first met, really, the summer before.
and that's you and Hank Shockley?
Yeah, and Hank heard me at the same spot at Delphi where everybody convened for the Black Night. I'm on the mic, and he heard me. He said, ain't you the dude that did the flyers? I said, yeah. But you was on the mic? I said, yeah. He said, we need an MC. I'm like, yeah, but I'm in college. I kind of toy with it and all that. And then he said, listen, we would love to have you as an MC. I was like, I knew what I already had my trajectory. Go to the thing, dance, I was going to be an illustrator anywhere I want. I was a graphic artist, phenoms, to this day.
So your thing wasn't to be an artist, as far, and I don't mean artist as here. I mean,
illustrator.
Your thing wasn't to be on the mic and making records and
Not making records, not doing music. If anything, at the most, was being a sportscaster. I was like Stuart Scott before Stuart Scott, but there was no ESPN, and it was like, so the most you could do is sports on the radio, play-by-play, color man. Yeah, me and Bill Stephanie did that at Adelphi.
So you were pretty much just doing this like, man, all right, you guys are messing up my groove. I can do this.
Yeah.
But I don't aspire to do this, even though you're good at it.
Because wasn't what you said so much as how you sound. Back then, when
Did
everything...
you always have the voice?
Yeah, but my voice came out of my father. Let me tell you, he's the greatest voice of all time. And this, I'm telling you this, when Martin Luther King Jr. was on the radio in real time. Like, my father could yell across a town, and you can't say, he'd be like, did you hear me?
Right,
He really
right.
be calling my brother's name, because I already was close around the crib anyway. He was like, so he said, did you hear me call you? And you couldn't say no, because everybody heard it. Like, my father was a U.S. Marine, but he was there for a few years, but whatever he had naturally and he learned from that, I mean, it'd almost be like, don't yell at me, beat me or something.
Right.
Don't yell. He'd make
all that authority in there.
Pianos, man. And my dad was a sweet man, man. It's like he raised thousands, man.
You know what's wild about even your voice, man? My mom, rest in peace.
Yes.
My mom loved your voice.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying? Like, she knew Chuck D. My mom knew Public Enemy because she loved your voice. And even now, And when I listen to Public Enemy, your voice is a cut through. And you come from an era of when we were buying and consuming records. Everybody had like a sound. There wasn't
right.
a, you know, and there wasn't any sloppy carbon copies.
Right.
It was like when you heard PE, you knew that was PE.
Everybody had their different stroke.
LL,
Yeah.
that was LL.
Yeah.
You know, Big Daddy was Big Daddy. Whatever you heard, when you heard it, you was like, that's it.
We were identified by what we had, and that's when people listen with their ears. Fast forward to technologies, which always govern how we take in our music today. To a fault, people listen with their eyes. New generations listen with their eyes. What they see is what they believe, maybe a little bit too much.
Yeah.
Before it was like, believe half of what you
Yes.
know, hear, and no, believe half of what you see and none of what you hear, because people would be talking. So I got to see it for myself. Remember that statement, right? Today it's flipped.
Got to see it.
Now
to believe
today
it.
it's like, believe none of what you see and half of what you hear, because people are not listening.
Is it not believe all of what you see? Because that's what I'm seeing now.
That's what I'm saying. Believe none of what you see.
So you saying don't believe what you see?
Right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But people believe.
Well, with AI and its acceleration, before you actually believe what you see, even if it's real and true, you got to do like a double check on it.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Maybe
yeah.
a triple check.
Yeah.
Especially because today people are they're screen ages.
Yeah, man.
And screen ages go from 5 to 95. An older head will look at it and be like, nah, it ain't real. But the younger heads coming in will believe it to be truth and gospel.
Yeah.
And now a lot of truth and real information is being tucked behind paywalls. So, but in any other data and information coming at people could be free because it could be bullshit.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, Ani, I'm like, history's going to be altered. Because we were already questioning history anyway. And now, you're like, my daughter is 16. She'll look at something.
And check it.
And she'll say, oh, Dad, yeah, I saw, when Kobe went down. I'm like, baby, that's not it.
Right.
People are literally looking at stuff now, and that's gospel. Right. And some people check, they're not even checking.
Yeah.
They just see it and that's it.
Because generations have been trained to trust their eyes. And, in the past, it's like, a lot of people talk, a lot of things going on, so I got to see it for myself. So you trusted your eyes. But it doesn't transfer over future generations because the data of what we're watching has changed. You got something attached to your hip. You want to see the real emotion of people? You could curse them out, you could say this or whatever, and you could be like, yeah, whatever. Take their phone out of their pocket and smash it against the wall. You're going to see passion
that you never see.
That you never see. What the, you know what I'm saying? You're going to see activity. So it shows you how much we of the new era, the new centurions are attached to things that we definitely don't control, that we got to figure out how to navigate through it. We don't have what they call netiquette taught to us. We don't have citizens anymore. You have netizens. People are netizens. There's citizens in the past were like, boom, we convene, we break some bread, we eye to eye, we talking, I'll catch you later, you'll hear my voice, boom, boom, boom. That's citizens to understand your space. The spaces have expanded, even beyond the planet, on the things that you kind of convene with each other with. You could be in an argument with somebody from Thailand. Or better yet, that usually happens in customer service.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Yo, I want that call from Avis now. Who am I talking to? Oh, I'm in the Philippines.
Yeah, hello, this is Bob. This ain't no goddamn Bob.
Right.
Hey, man, when you go from being a spectator
Right.
and listening to music, right?
Yes.
When do you say, I can do this? Like, what were you listening to? Because growing up, we had things that our parents listened to.
Yes, sir.
My mom, it was Temptations, Four Tops, Commodores, Marvin Gaye. Everything was in the household, and I loved it.
Right.
I loved hearing it. I loved the of the vinyl.
And AM radio.
I loved it,
Yes.
and it put me on a mission for this great thing called music. Like,
Yes.
I always had music, Chuck. During homelessness, music.
Yes.
It was, my mom and 7 kids. I never had my own room, but I could put on headphones and I can go around the world.
Because it opened the latch to your imagination.
Yes,
Today,
man.
imagination is sold to people.
Right.
Before you already had it. People already have the
I already had
imagination, but they growing
videos in
it.
my
There
head.
you
I
go.
had mountaintops and everything because art and music painted something for
Right,
me.
exactly.
So when my mom had this Sunday mornings listening to music, playing music, but then when hip hop came,
Yes.
hip hop was like, that was mine.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That was like mine, bro. And
But it
once I
also
got
had
hip hop,
reminders too of what your parents listened to,
oh
because
yeah,
it started from records and it was compressed and put into gumbo. So
Mm-hmm.
you got this gumbo that's already happening into you in a new way
yeah,
that's galvanizing you forward. But my beginnings of saying I could get involved with doing some of this came also innocently, and also being asked to do it, just like when Hank saw me at Adelphi Radio, working with Bill Stephanie, Spectrum with Hank and Keith, and going into and Flavor, going and doing college radio and being one of the first. We had a college independent station network away from what the majors were doing. So you get everything coming through. You're influenced by people that hardly anybody talks about the brilliance of the world famous Supreme Team, who came from doing radio in a wild, crazy, eccentric type of way, but they brought hip hop across in a way that turned me on. And to be able to be there giving Run DMC their first interview on our radio stations, like, it was no greater joy to getting and breaking a record and seeing the joy in their faces as their record was being played, and their work not being in vain. They go in the studio, they toil, they make something, they come and bring it to you. You play it, and then see the look on their faces, and then have people talk to it or play it the next day in their cars. That was the ultimate joy in all of music, even to this day, for me. Even more than making the music and playing in front of the hundreds of thousands of people. And I still do this. I built a 12-station rap station as an app years ago. We've serviced more than 500,000 artists and songs. So, I mean, all the way to crazy things. Like I've done a radio show 16 years in a row called And You Don't Stop, and it runs through our app. And a few years ago, I played this artist that submitted music from Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City's biggest MC. His name is JB. And I played his music and highlighted it. Because we treat it like they used to say, treat chicken right. We treated hip-hop and submissions right. So we transmitted it through the app. Come to find out, I get some mail sent to me. He's on the front page of his city paper, the Oklahoma City Gazette. So-and-so gets song played with Chuck D. Do you know that this young man is such a fixture in OKC? I went to a game earlier this year. He know the mayor.
Oh, wow.
He's like an official rapper for the Thunder, right? They brought me in on a seminar last year, paid me a lot of money to speak. I'm like, it all came from a seed of graciously and honorably playing his music, that he made the seed turn into a forest out there. Matter of fact, they jowling at me now, like, yo, you look like we might be in the finals. You coming back out here? You know what I'm saying?
But that was authentic to you as
sir.
well, because it's an art form and not even a movement, but it's something that you care, not
man.
cared about, like you
it's
care
community,
about,
man. And I mean, we did interviews when we were in our 20s, man. Now we sexagenarians,
right.
We get a chance to use sexagenarian for a decade period. That's life. That's your 60s,
right?
And
I'm not there yet.
Well,
right.
But there's your reverence,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And the thing about it is just that every little thing that you said about my music and me, with a genuine smile, makes me say none of it is not in vain, and I go back and extend that light and that brilliance to the crew or the people, and they might not hear it or see it, but it came through me, because the appreciation is on the other side, and I understand it because I've been on the other side and still on the other side, seeing the appreciation and saying, damn, I'm glad you brought that record up to me, man. Like there was a sister, her name's Barbarella, man, star from Atlanta. Man, I played her song all year long. I said, "You the girl," and she said, "You done did so much for my life." So the community of hip hop, I think, goes beyond just what is highlighted at the top.
Right.
When does it become community? When the bottom is good, it has its flow. The middle is good, it has its flow, and at the top, it is what it is. Corporations and big business, always want to make things top heavy. It's only worth, the things at the top, and everything else, doesn't matter. But that's not up for them to figure out. Maybe that's up to us.
When did you know you wanted to make music?
Well, I was asked to do records by Rick Rubin for 2 years, and I turned them down.
Yeah. So how and Rick Rubin is already, he's already Rick
By
Rubin.
that time, he's Rick Rubin, still Rick Rubin. And it's a long story, even longer than I'll show to go into that, how that came about. I mean, he comes out in New York City, dorm. First record is Tila Rock and DJ Jazzy J, who's also on this
is that
new
It's
project.
Yours?
Yeah, It's Yours.
Yeah, do you
who's
like
also
it?
on this new project, Radio Armageddon, which basically is the theme of
Who's
My
on Radio
Love
Armageddon?
is a new project.
But
That's
who's
on
on
Def
it?
Jam.
You said
Schoolie D is
Oh
on
my
it.
God.
Daddy O, we've released a.
from Stat.
From Stet. I don't even think they're singles. They're not really singles.
Right.
It's really like Radio Armageddon has no beginning
Is
and no
Tila
end
Rock
to it.
on there too?
No, he's not on it.
Oh, okay.
But Jazzy J's on it.
Gotcha.
And Jazzy J's doing a couple of scratches on it. I was like, yeah, come on, man. It's like it has no beginning,
Like
no
Zulu
end.
Jazzy J?
Yes, that's Jazzy J. Yeah, man. So it's like it's a community gathering, and my style on Radio Armageddon is like a MC style that introduces MC doing their thing in conventional style. So somebody might say, "Man, I don't like the way you rhyming on that, Chuck." I'm like, "Well, it ain't meant to move the song as much as the rapper is meant to move the song." So we into the science like that. So the thing that what got me into the recording aspect, we wanted to get in the radio. The doors were closed. Bill Stephanie, who started me in radio at WBAU, was the first executive at Def Jam. And his mission was to get me to make Chucky D records over on a new label called Def Jam.
Are you writing?
Not really. I mean, LL's there. Beastie Boys are there.
Yeah.
Rick Rubin's the first DJ, and he gets Dre, our guy, Dr. Dre, on our coast.
Original concept, Dre.
Yeah, the original concept, to come over and sign with the Def Jam.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of the original signees. Matter of fact, Dre invented bass music because he was the first to have that rolling. And the first time you heard that rolling, but like the extended rolling, which became like to this day just folklore, people praying, especially in Memphis and place, they bow to, is Together Forever. So Dre shows Rick Rubin how to use that rolling, and that's why the first time you hear that sustained bass like that, because people use the rolling, Arthur Baker and Bambaataa, Planet Rock. But they technoed it just like a lot of music with World Wrecking Crew and everybody out here, Dream Team. They took that rolling, they rolled it up at 125 beats per minute, and dance floor is important because people dance to that. Especially, I'm a skater. I skate and dance. You know what I'm saying? So if you got something moving, we wasn't opposed to music coming from the West because it kept the floors going. You know what I'm saying? We master DJs, grandmaster type DJs, and we carry that on the radio. So Dre goes over to Def Jam and invents kind of like bass music, which they go crazy for in Florida, which creates Miami bass and Luke and all them. But he took that rolling and he made what? Pump That Bass. He did Knowledge Me later on. You're a Master Ace, make the record on. So Dre had a lot of innovations.
One of mine from them, man, with how they flipped the Jacksons. It's great to be here.
Yep. Can You Feel It?
Yeah, Can You Feel It?
So this is crazy. We'd be at the radio station and say, man, this is another guy named Dr. Dre out there.
Right.
Well, you know what, Dre, you keep your name because he ain't going to last long.
Bro, can I share a story with you real quick?
Yeah, what?
Real quick, man. I've been Big Boy since I'm 15 years of age,
Yes,
right?
sir.
And so at one point, I'm bodyguarding, the Far Side. I'm with the Far Side,
Right.
and, I'm Big Boy. And I had been Big Boy before Far Side, before radio. I'm
Yes, sir.
15, I'm Big Boy. So this group comes together, and it's this dude named Andre 3000, and it's a guy by the name of Big Boy. And so people are telling me, and the group is Outkast.
Right.
So people are telling me like, hey man, there's this other dude named Big Boy. There's this other dude named Big Boy. And I'm like, man, I ain't gonna change my name. I said, man, them dudes not gonna last. I said, Chuck, I said the same thing. And I've told Big Boy from Outkast that story many times, bro. Like, they not gonna last. You know what I'm saying?
Boy.
So with the Dre thing too, y'all was like, ah, man, you know.
Big salute to Outkast, making Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah, man.
And some of the best genuine heart brothers that's out there. You know, big up to Killer Mike. All those ATL cats, man, laid back in the cut, you know.
When they said the South got something to say, they weren't playing.
Yeah, different speed, because the South is made up of a lot of different things coming into it. All the melting pot cities, Atlanta, Houston, you know, all the Detroit, the places that had something to say, and Los Angeles and New York has something to do with it transmitting to all these areas. You know?
Take me back to making this record and how Dre is over there. Is Dre like Dr. Is he the bait for you now for them to get you over to Def Jam?
Bill went over there and then Dre went to Def Jam. And we still wanted to do radio. But Dre still was doing his show. And then the next bait is that Beastie Boys need a DJ because they blow up. They go on the Raise Hell tour in the '86, but the year before they on the Fresh Fest 2, opening up. No, they opened up in '86. They were kind of, LL opened up in '84 with I Need a Beat. So Def Jam not only was growing as a little label, but also they was tied into the Fresh Fest tours. The Monster Act, of course, alongside Run DMC is Houdini.
Houdini, yes sir.
Another group they don't talk about as much as they should, who are like my master teachers along with Dougie Fresh, because our first tour was 1987. So Dre is over there at Def Jam, and he's releasing singles. He wanted to release an album because they make their deal with CBS, which says, we don't know about the singles market. We want albums. It's like Springsteen and Michael Jackson. We in the album-oriented marketplace. But hip-hop was in the singles marketplace. And what do you think was the middle medium between that? Cassettes.
Right.
So now, yeah, we ain't going to sell the big records, but now CBS is finding out that they sold damn near 800,000 radio albums. Was it about it being an album, or was it about being a cassette? It was a cassette, and they wasn't gonna make no single cassettes either. They're gonna be an album with 10 cuts, and the appetite was like, man, I gotta have more rap on play on my box, but they wasn't even doing that. I'll tell you the truth, here's another story. We come out, play our first tour. It's '87, right? We trying to find, of course, yeah, they sell the records, man, but you can't find compilations of rap songs on cassettes.
Right.
We come out to Swap Meet. Swap Meet got all the hits on it. We buying hundreds of these joints, man. The record labels wasn't doing that. They was split up, you know what, we can't have my song with that label over there. The independent companies were like, yeah, we together, but we ain't. And the majors like, we get no profit off of those cassettes unless we sell an album. Oh, wow, we could sell an album and still make the same cassettes. So that whole science has something to do, not to get long-winded, in how hip-hop and went from singles into albums. And LL Cool J Radio and Def Jam was an accident. Now, Dre was making singles, so he couldn't wait to make his album, but you know what? They were like, go get Chuck. They be calling my crib. I'm like, nah, tell them I ain't home.
You say 2 years?
Yeah, man, 2 years.
Why?
They be calling because we wanted to make radio, and I was 25, 26. I'm like, I ain't making Chucky D records, man. I knew what records were about. We got rooms full of records. I categorize records. I'm categorizing disco records, and I seen artists, man. It's like I'd be better than that. We would be better than that than coming up with another group. I finished categorizing like 3 rooms of records. Big deal having another record. You know what I'm saying?
But you weren't tripping off of having your record.
Nah.
Wow.
Nah, because I didn't. number one, in order to be great, you have to have ego, but be able to give it permission to get out of there. Because
Right.
you're working with a bunch of men, really
Mm-hmm.
young men. So to be at the top of that pack is bestowed upon you. You don't take it and grab it by the horns. You got to lead, and I learned that from my father. You could work with a room full of men. At the end of the day, your leadership will be determined. Not over that because you could beat people over the head,
Right.
because they trust in your guidance.
What's the turning point for you though? Because 2 years is a lot of conversation. It's a lot of what's going on. It's probably a lot of people bending your ear.
Yeah, yeah. It was a bidding war before a bidding war. It was this Def Jam coming after Rick calling me. I tell my mom I'm not home.
And this is the thing somebody else probably wanted that they didn't have to
Oh,
convince.
they died. Remember LL sent him a demo when a few years ago. He was 16 and
Yeah,
he
man.
wanted to. I ain't want that. I'd rather be heard, not seen. I'd rather be behind the scene, right? Be SEEN and SCEN. I was like the Smokey Robinson to Hank Shockley.
Right.
I'm gonna be behind, produce. I was the best behind the scene person ever, man.
But it's so much tuition into the school of experience, like, cause you know how to create it. You see people there. You know from what the dance floor looked like. You know the roller coaster of, okay, if I put this on, they'll go and probably hit the bar or they'll do something. You know the chant. You know what I'm saying? You know timing. You know programming. So I would think that natural progression.
Now, I made demos on radio station that Rick wanted. He wanted Public Enemy #1.
Mm-hmm.
I'm #1. I'm making it just as a promo.
Is that the Public Enemy #1 that we heard?
And I made it in 1984. So that even added fire. Like, yo, we got to have him because he's a piece in the Def Jam program. And I made it as a radio promo.
And are you Chucky at that?
Because even in CHUCKIED.
Yeah.
And I'm making it because I'm telling people to listen to our station and all that. The whole thing, Sugar Ray Bolo.
Yeah.
Later on is Tyson
Bolo. Oh, so it was Sugar Ray at first.
Right after the Duran fight.
Oh my God.
Sugar Ray was like doing like that. Yeah. Up. So I could go solo like a Sugar Ray Bolo.
Oh my God.
So they wanted that. And I was like, and I made a record intensely so you would not like it. Even to this day, I don't make records for anybody else except for me and my crazy ass head and ear. Of course, if you make it with your crew and your people, those are the compromises. But because in that situation, I'm the chief writer, I'm going to write where it got to go, and I want the sound to be sort of like something in my crazy head. But then when you work along with your cohorts, you shape it into being a group thing.
Gotcha.
And then a group thing, okay, now I got to lead the group thing. But then again, another guy that I brought to the radio station that Bill gave his first shot to was a guy named Flavor Flav. Yeah, and Flav started out by answering phones and getting joked on and snapped on by 20 people. He'd take them on 20-1, and he got good at it. He began to outsnap 20 people. And one time he's behind the radio screen, and we all joking in there, and Flavor's behind, sitting in Bill's seat. So I'm up there like, look at him, old soul popper, And Flavor behind, everybody started laughing. And Bill Stephanie said, I'm going to give Flavor a show. And people like, what? I'm give him an hour and a half show to come on Saturday before your mix show. Hey, do you know when Flavor got behind the mic and had his own show? Everybody listened to that. It was the craziest show. He'd go in the middle of Penn Station with his box and records, next train and all that. And he put together some of the greatest radio shows ever. And he played a lot of his music. And he played but it was like you could not take your ears off his show.
Was Flav an artist then? Or he
wanted to be.
Flav, yeah.
He got joked on. He wasn't an artist of note, and people would say that he ain't that good.
Right.
But his drive, his perseverance. And so Bill gives him a show, and then I was driving trucks in the city moving furniture, and I gave him a job. And I'm telling you, between 1985 and 1986, You want to talk about this? Public Enemy can't really have a movie per se because there's so many chapters to it. There's a movie when we used to move furniture. You want to hear some? We used to move furniture throughout Manhattan. Either him at the wheel and me in the passenger seat, or me at the wheel and him at the passenger seat and U-Hauls. And this dude. So that's when we began to have this camaraderie, and Public Enemy #1 was made off of his brother who used to cut hair, had somebody in the neighborhood that wanted to challenge me because I was like kind of a host of MCs. They wanted to challenge me, so I made the tape that shut them up because I came out of retirement as a rapper to shut them up with this tape, and that's what Public Enemy #1 was, and it was in Flavor's brother's barbershop.
Were y'all called Public Enemy then?
Nah, we were Spectrum
So
City.
you just saying we're Public Enemy #1?
Yeah, that's where the name came from. And then Hank pretty much
And
said
Spectrum City is just you guys as...
that's our whole DJ unit.
Yeah.
So it's a conversation to get out of that into a conversation. Because, I mean, from 82 to 87, you got these changes in hip-hop and in the world, because we're in the middle of R&B. That's Reagan and Bush. You already see COINTELPRO in his third stage eradicate and destroy our square mile town of Roosevelt. Out of nowhere, 78, 79 came what? Drugs and guns. And I don't mean weed. They took weed off the street. They replaced it with cocaine in 77, 78. So, you know, like old heads and unks and all that, they just, you know, they just want their weed and they want their brew. They took that off the streets. The same cats they used to get it from, all of a sudden, they go to their cat. It's like, yo, I ain't got no weed, but I got this thing right here. And cats rejected cocaine because they remember, you know, Superfly and all that. Cats didn't want to do no hard drugs. But Friday night, they finish working or maybe don't have a job. Cats want party. That little bit gatewayed them into, okay, I guess coke. But the gateway of coke was the gateway of crack. And also the gateway of that money was the gateway to guns. And so all of a sudden, like an OG, like 18 years old, if they got into anything and they went on the inside for a year, they come back on the outside to a new world with a 14-year-old holding a wad of money like that. That's when money started to actually speak. Because look, at the time, man, all of us were broke, but we wasn't broken.
Right.
Big difference. Black folk were broke. But the thing is, man, we weren't broken. So we could lend each other money. Back then you had a statement. You remember this statement? Because, you know, like, first time coming out to Los Angeles and places like Watts and Compton, it reminded me of Roosevelt because it's suburban outside of a big city. We live by cars. That's why my first records were like my 98. 98 Posse. I mean, you in Long Island, you ain't got a car, your ass is walking miles.
Right.
In the city, they got the most elaborate, and I mean the four boroughs, excluding Staten Island, where you had back in the day you had to get there by boat, right? Or bridge, walk over a long-ass bridge. So that wasn't included. But they built the greatest transit system in the world in 1903, and that's the New York subway system, where you can go miles from way up in the Bronx down into the lower parts of Queens by a train for 5 cents. My people from North Carolina, here's another thing. Everybody black in New York came from down south, but on the East Coast, on I-95 today, right? Or 85. 85, 75 from Atlanta goes straight up to what? Cleveland, Detroit. Black folks is moving north to get away from what? Jim Ass Crow. By any means necessary. So I could easily ask my great-grandma and grandma, like, what made you move from Rockingham, North Carolina? Yeah, cool. My sister went up there. She got a job in the hospital, in the cleaners usually, right? She got a crib in Harlem. She could get from the crib in Harlem, you know, miles down to the tip of Manhattan in the hospital for 5 cents. And then she could live in an apartment that got split up into 4 areas. So we went from rural to urban for the sake of getting away from hate and also living in an area where you could bring your whole family up, work with them, and still live in the spot and not have, you know, that type of racism immediately on your ass. It came in different ways, but it's a big difference between somebody knocking on your door ready to hang your daddy and stuff like that.
So with you, Chuck, there was a lot of life before hip hop, before
of
rap
course.
music. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because there's some people, they just, like when you say LL.
Yes.
You know, he's at Def Jam at 16 sending in, letters and,
Screaming. I mean, and he
like
comes
he
in,
wanted
and
that.
he came in a mode of after the T La Rock, because you know T La Rock comes Special K from Treacherous 3, because Special K is also T La Rock's brother, who comes out of that vernacular of the Treacherous 3 and Kool Moe D, right? So you got Kool Moe D, Special K, and L.A. Sunshine, and they changed the game on vernacular and amount of words. Well, that goes to T La Rock in his style. That goes to 60-year LL, who's just coming out. He's hip hop's first superstar. Curtis Blow's our first star.
Right.
LL Cool J is our first superstar. We got Michael Jackson, Prince turning around like, okay.
Yeah.
And then he gets a chance to be on Soul Train, which to this day is underrated as the thing that saved us during the crack gun 80s. Soul Train. Don Cornelius. Whatever they come up to say about this, that, or whatever, or him, or whatever, that don't mean nothing to us, because the byproduct is delivered by God.
What did that feel like when you finally hit Soul Train? Because you got to think Soul Train was in here.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Nobody ever knew, man. First with the Soul Train, we were doing 4 recordings on the same day, big boy, because we was on the middle of a tour. So the whole tour did one day. Us, Stetsasonic, Houdini, LL, and Eric B. and Rakim recorded. Now, we recorded during tour damn near like, it was like September when we was out here. Our airing then happened into December, the week before Christmas. But let me tell you, bro, when it did air, we were stars. You was a star only after Soul Train.
Right.
You wasn't a star before Soul Train. So we was already on tour doing Rebel Without a Pause. We be in Wichita and people be staring at us.
Dude, I remember my first introduction live to Rebel Without a Pause.
Was
I was at
LA
the Sports Arena.
Yeah.
Yep, I was at the LA Sports Arena. But you guys looked so polished already.
That comes from 2 areas. We on tour, so you got your look together. People don't know what they're hearing, because that's usually what a concert is. You come to see the act. You don't really come to hear the act unless you're in a
Who you
concert
want to see
hall,
in concert, right?
and they're playing each instrument in orchestration, like what Cypress has just done in Royal Albert Hall. I gotta give my guys a big up, the greatest group in the world right now. Them and the Locks, Cypress Hill and the Locks.
So when you go and you do that, you know how people say, oh, when we would go and do what's with Ed Sullivan, next day you're a star.
Oh,
you felt that.
The day after we aired, we've been doing the song all year long,
right?
In places. Now in New York in the Northeast, it became an anthem immediately.
And you got to think, we're talking about a time where you could just press send. There was no social media. There wasn't like it's all over the place. Like literally, when we saw Soul Train, that was either an introduction, or even when we saw Michael Jackson moonwalk on Motown 25th anniversary. The reason why we saw that is because everybody was watching.
Right.
And with Soul Train, everybody was watching. So I understand when you say the next day, the same song that we already been doing.
Yes. And
people looked at you different.
And when which makes it like when you're on that stage, don't take anything for granted. Right now, where everybody's on the mic at the same time and everybody got a camera at the same time, people have gotten a little sloppy with it to the point where it all evens out. So what's the thing that gets the most attention? Catastrophe and drama. Because people are insensitive to, back in the day, it was a blessing to be seen and heard and somebody be in the audience of your performance. So you gave 150%. You never turned your back to the audience. Dougie Fresh taught Public Enemy because that was a rites of passage. We taught Tribe Called Quest and Latifah after us and all that. That started to stop after corporations came in and said, well, we don't need managements. we financed this. We ain't got to have them be on that tour with all them artists and then turn it into like Big Me and everybody else's little you. But back in the day, you leaned on each other. You rooted for each
Yeah.
other. You like, let's go. And I
Yeah.
think because of our age, I came in the game at 27. So myself and Griff the same age, Flavor a year older. We came in the game as 27, 28-year-olds. So we came in playing with people 18, 19 years old trying to figure out who they was, and figuring out who they was when they get fame poured on them is another whole thing. And we came to them with some grounding and say, yeah, man, this is a construct, but fame is fake because it fades. And if you don't believe fame is fake and it fades, then you are F-U-C-K-E-D. So this is a thing that you use, but you got to figure out when to use it and not have it use you. And even as you get older, you do these songs. I tell people all the time, what you put out there stays out there. So, yeah, you doing a song that you did at 20, so you doing it at 50. So basically the crowd has to be able to detach a lot of it and put it to the side because you ain't that life no more, but the song was dope.
But how did you can't know that when you're in the studio and you do, like, because at the moment,
The advantage,
when you,
Big Boy, I would say, is that you're doing the songs and you're doing the performance in commune. Back then it was different. You did recordings with a group of people. That was your team, your squad, your crew. And you did your performances with a group of people, your team, your squad, and your crew. LL is our first superstar. He was one guy. Before that, Curtis Blow was one guy. I saw, if I'm going to do any records, I ain't going to be one guy. You see that all this was designed. Public Enemy come in the room, the first person you're going to hear is probably Flavor.
right.
You ain't going to hear me, I'm in the back somewhere.
Are you and Flav like the odd couple?
Yeah, more than you would believe. But I tell you, man, the older you get, he becomes more you, and you become more him.
Explain.
I was tight regimen, like this gotta be this way. He's like, whatever, que sera, sera. Now, he's the person that's regimen trying to get things like whatever, and prove that he's that guy. And I'm Black Hippie before Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah, man.
You know what I'm saying? I enjoy the moment, I separate the moment of what this is stepping in my responsibility, a performer, artist, spokesperson. And then you get to a certain stage and age where, like, I'm talked out, but if you ask me a question, I'll answer it. I'll try to guide. If I'm asked, I'll listen. It doesn't mean I'm, what do they call it? I'm dormant. I'm not saying or doing anything. I'm everywhere and nowhere at the same time. I appear when I want to appear. And the beauty about the Public Enemy thing is that in the building of fame, we can catch the elevator. I tell people, see me on the second floor because that's where I keep my office. You know what I'm saying? I'm not determined by, I never bought a new car. I got 5 black shirts. Sometimes I wear ash because I didn't find the grease. And my daughter, and big up to my daughter who's in management, and she does a fantastic job. And she sees me coming on camera sloppy or with or some ash, I hear it from the boss. You know what I'm saying? So these are the areas that your substance is. And not everybody has to have the same substance in their art and all that. I'm an artist, and when I'm an illustrator, I'm an artist in 3 or 4 different ways. Some of it's legal, and some of it ain't for kids to see. But to fast forward back to the thing where it comes down to the music and all, artists have to be able to carry their situation throughout their lifetime. And I've been fortunate. I've been happy, man. And I've been fortunate to have all that in the back with the crew and to perform with the crew. Now today it's same body of people, different lineups. I come for the sport thing. I mean, we do festivals now, so it's a different lineup. So somebody say, "Oh, you replaced somebody?" No, we didn't replace it. It's just that they've been with us since '86. You just never seen DJ Johnny Juice, who's actually orchestrating. DJ Lloyd is over with Cypress Hill. It's like I did Prophets of Rage 4 years, which was the greatest thing I ever was a part of as a performer and an artist, because we were like the Avengers.
Where does that come from though? Because when we think about you and we think about just Public Enemy as a whole, right? And for someone that didn't, and even when you say, oh, I got 5 shirts, I'm on the second floor, like you're very kind of reserved. You know how to appear and disappear. You know what I'm saying? So when you get this opportunity that you hid away from for 2 years, and then you go and you get it, right?
Yeah.
That turning point, what is Public Enemy at the time? Because if we're talking about Spectrum One,
Yeah.
when do you become a rap group? Like, where's Flav? Where's Griff? Where's Terminator?
All these guys are in the community that come together as one. Hank, Keith, Griff, Flavor, Terminator. I went to school with Terminator's older brother, who's 2 years younger than me. And so when we came and did the WBAU thing, and we ran clubs on Long Island, we the melting pot.
When do y'all become Public Enemy? Like when
Public
does
Enemy
that
number
work?
one demo Rick wanted when we decided. And it started like me, Hank, I remember after a show, me, Hank, and Bill sitting in front of Bill's house. And Bill said, listen, man, the Def Jam thing ain't all that bad. I said, I don't want to become a recording artist and all that. It's just us 3 in the car. And say, you know what, we could do this and then do all the things we want to do after we do this for 2 years. And I conceded. The next thing, we made a couple of songs, took it to Rick. He said, yeah, let's go. And Public Enemy number 1 was the main song. And then Hank just simply said, just call the group Public Enemy. And the cosign to that, right? I was like, yeah, okay. Wow, it doesn't seem that easy. And I remember another giant of our times who doesn't get the respect that because he's such a fixture, Vincent Davis of Entertainment Records.
Okay.
He put later on Keep Sweat out. But before that, he put out B-Boy Records like 2-3 Break with Chuck Chill Out. And DJ, he would make DJ records. So he put out Joeski Love.
Right.
With the Pee Wee's Dance. Just a brilliant mind. And him and Hank was hanging at the time.
I remember Entertainment.
Yes, Vincent Davis was one of those Fingalis. Like if you talk about Andre Harrell and Russell, and Vincent Davis is one of those guys. He's in a different place up there in the Bronx. Smart dude. I mean, brilliant. Genius. And he goes up to Hank and says, Public Enemy. That's a brilliant-ass name. And that co-signed it for me. I did the Public Enemy number 1 demo, and that got around, but I could not conceive the call the situation Public Enemy, because once again, I didn't have it in my mind to be a recording artist any damn way. We did a Spectrum City record, but that was to sell the radio side of us. Right. So I'm like, we could be Spectrum City, and it was like, nah, we got to be something new. So Hank, Bill, and I were in the car, and I said, okay. And the next stages were those things, into making the demos, and to signing I got the picture where I'm signing the contract, and we all there. And you know what I call the picture?
What?
The Great Surrender.
Damn.
Like, you don't see a real smile on my face.
Did you call it that back then?
Yeah, back then, the Great Surrender.
Do you remember when PE used to stand for physical education?
Of course, still to this day.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't? What do they call it now?
Because anytime you say PE, people say Public Enemy.
Yeah.
Like, I remember you used to get your class schedule, like, oh, I got 4th period PE. Now, anytime I think PE, I think Public Enemy. And I just had this conversation about logos, and not just hip hop logos. There are logos. Do you remember who I had this conversation with, Ani? Well, I was talking about logos. Onyx. I was talking with Fredro Starr from Onyx, and we brought up Public Enemy, that logo, and what that meant, and what you see in that logo. Yeah. And you drew that logo?
Yeah. I used to do logos. That's another story before the story. I'll be quick on it, though. In Long Island, we promoted events, but we could not get in the venues that the rock bands always seem to get in these buildings, these places for it. Here, we DJs that got rappers, and they used to have this paper called the Island Air, or Good Times. And sure enough, you go through that, and what happened at that time in the 80s, man, You open it up, all rockers, Long Island rockers, right? Oh, so and so showing up here. Every single of these rock bands had logos, and they wasn't big either. But you know what? They didn't want to be big. They was making so much money in these gigantic clubs that they were like, we don't make records. We just show up and play in front of 2,500 people in these clubs, and they all had their logos. So I was the first to say, well, DJs should have logos too. So in our own circuit, although we wasn't getting in them venues, I did the logo for Spectrum City, and it was dynamic. Matter of fact, that's what Bill discovered me, because I was wearing a Spectrum City jacket coming from the same school, and he sees my jacket. He says, yo, Spectrum City. And I said, hey, yeah, I'm Chuck. I said, I'm Bill. And that's how we met, based off the logo I created for Spectrum. Fast forward, we promoting gigs, rappers, and I'm making their logos. So I'm making a flyer with their logo on it, just like the rock bands did. So one time I heard this radio station, you know, they played rap, WHBI, and the dedications come in. And so they said, oh yeah, Irma from Queens, and also, you know, Josephine and Theo from the South Bronx. And this shout goes out to Funky Frank and the Street Force. I'm like, is that a real group? Well, whether it was a real group or not, I snatched that name, right? I snatched the name. And I like, we used to put names on flyers at groups that didn't even exist.
Oh.
So, yeah, they didn't even exist. So what I do, I made a logo for it. And the logo was the PE logo before it was PE. So it's like Funky Frank and the Street Force with the PE logo. So we did the gig, you know, found out there was, I don't know who they were. It's just a gig that happened. When the PE thing came along, automatically I was thinking stencil letters. Because, you know, like Run DMC had the Run and the crossbar DMC. Beastie Boys toured around with the Harley Davidson thing. There was a show on TV called Alvin Corpus, FBI, and they boom, 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 it was on Channel 7, ABC, and they put in a stencil letter. I said, that's the perfect thing to put for Public Enemy. So what, I put a mid bar in it, just like Run DMC, and it was cool on its own. Public, bar, Enemy. I look over on the other side of my X-Acto knife, white out. That's because that's where I did the logos out of. X-Acto knife, white out in the copy machine. And I saw Funky Frank and the Street Force. I went in with my X-Acto knife, cut that circle out, and put it on the Public Enemy, and boom, that's how it happened. Swear to God.
And you know what's wild about that? When you say, what do you say, your stencil? White out paper, because now everything now you can just move shit around. like this. I remember early in the days when we used to have to make flyers.
Yes, sir.
I could be at a copy spot 4, 5, 6 hours.
Yes.
Making, putting this, and making a flyer.
Yes.
And everything depended on the flyer.
Yes.
Everything. Yeah, bro.
Whether you're gonna get 100 people in there or 120 or 200.
And you had to make sure people held your flyer.
Yep.
Because we would come out of place, and if I saw the flyer on the ground, I would think like, oh shit, okay. Because I was a flyer holder.
Man.
Like I would love to take flyers, Chuck, and go home and read them.
Listen, my flyers, I try to make it like, not only you gonna hold it, you gonna go home and hang it on their wall. I have flyers on my wall too.
That's what you were saying when you saw something that was just like, oh, it's too much information, it's penciled in. Like, yeah, you knew when you saw something like.
Yeah, man. I mean, and it led you all the way fast forward, and like, how you gonna make something you trying to say like this and truncate it down to here? Make less is more. Get to the point. Nail them with something that they can't forget with their eyes or forget with their ears. I ain't got a lot of time to play around. Then also, we in our 20s, we dealing with a lot of teenagers. So in the community, there's a slippery slope. You deal with teenagers, you do the wrong thing, that ain't gonna work. You just pimping these kids. So the responsibility and the accountability on Public Enemy when we got in the hip hop recording field was the same thing we did in our neighborhood. We got people, man, in our neighborhood that grew up with us and said, I remember everything y'all did when I was in Hempstead High School, whatever. Y'all really looked out for us, y'all. And so we said, well, what we did in this little area, it happened to turn out all around the world.
When do you go from Chucky MC Chucky D to Chuck D.
At Public Enemy.
So with Public
That's why I
Enemy,
shaved the IE. I was Chucky all my life.
right?
My grandfather was named Charles. They thought I was going to be a Chuck. My mom flipped up and called me Carlton, but I still kept the Chuck. So I was Chuck before I was born.
So when you go from that and now you're Chuck D, Public Enemy, what are some of the first recordings that y'all do? Because does it feel like everything is coming together quickly?
Everything
the logo,
coming together quickly, coming at you quickly. We did a lot of preparation, but you cannot prepare for the speed of all the mix and the fame and everything at once. I mean, we had our things so together, but then another level is like, okay, now y'all a group. Now y'all getting in with the Def Jam momentum. So whatever Run DMC, Beastie Boys, and LL did, now y'all on the jump level. Now either y'all gonna get on the level they at, or y'all gonna fall back to the bottom.
Is there a pressure in that? Because now that you committed to it.
But at the same time, it was like the Michael Jordan thing. You badass in practice, you're gonna be badass when they roll out. Practice, we was monsters, man. Preparation was monsters. It was like all academic, all the way down to like S1's already, Security First World already had their organization, right? Griff is one of them. And brother James Baum still with us to this day. Pop Diesel's outside. We go on tour, man. They beat each other up.
Right.
Listen, not only they beat each other up, and they're all civilized minds,
right?
Too. They're civilized mindsets. Some from the Nation of Islam, some 5%er. It all came in together. You know, Griff was a feature point because Hank and I knew him. This was his organization that he was a part of as a member. I brought him and said, hey, this is a great symbol since y'all the security of our gigs. This is a great thing to put around myself, Flavor.
So were they doing security at y'all like early shows at Spectrum One?
And they was badass. They're badass because they were all dressed like Panthers.
So all this was already all in black already.
Matter of fact, here's the 98 Posse, how they figuring it. They already the neighborhood gangsters. Some of them dealers, some of them just stick-up kids. But at the same time, we on Long Island, right? They could fix and build their own cars. They like thugs on wheels, man. It's a big deal. There's a Nassau County line in Queens. Queens, you could travel by train and buses and stuff. Like you still need cars out there. You know, Run DMC talk about Cadillacs, you know, Hollis. They got different things. Long Island is all cars and nothing. Yeah, you get a bus, but it stops at 9 o'clock. 98 Posse come to the gigs first with their whole thug mentality, then get neutralized by the S1Ws. To the point, the party's got to go on. And we like, and nobody want to mess up a Spectrum party. The girls are there. It's popping. It gives us something to do. We country. It's a country town. Yeah, it's New York, but it ain't. Right. You know what I'm saying? Eventually, S1Ws and the 98 Posse have a standoff, and they end up being like, listen, we ain't going to go into your thing, and you don't mess up the party. They end up being like together, which meant like this. If you came from Queens or Brooklyn and thought you was going to start a problem, you got to deal with the S1s and you got to deal with the thugs that's already there. And you might get locked up in the county jail and see nothing but people that say, oh, y'all messed up a Spectrum party coming from Brooklyn? And there's only two ways out of there. You know, it's like places in L.A. Sometimes it's like two ways out of Watts, right? and somebody driving the car, what the S1, what the 98 Posse used to do, if they had conflict, what they did is strategically cut off the highway. So you got to get back out in the city through a certain highway, or you got to get back. It's even worse in Wyandanch, because that's way out, like with Rakim and then Boondocks. Yeah, you get a problem with them out there, you're not getting back home. You know what I'm saying? So these dynamics was stuff that we were able to kind of like, remember, I'm the songwriter. So how do I put all these dynamics into what Public Enemy's about? I write the songs. You're going to get yours. Suckers to the Side, I know you hate my 98. You know, I get stopped by a cop. You know, I got to be in submission, because Nassau County back then, they had a rule of, you know what, you run, you getting shot. there ain't gonna be no riots out here. We gonna be the first one firing, because you know what? The mafia is tied in with the police back then. The commissioner and all that stuff, they, I mean, the police also live out in Nassau County. It's like the Simi Valley. When I first heard about Simi Valley out here, I'm like, I didn't know anything. Oh, that's where the police in LA, they lived there. Well, we was Nassau and Suffolk County. They lived in Nassau County. They was embedded into all that stuff or whatever. So even if you had a situation with the police is wired with goons. They got goons on the side and all that. So we all knew that. These dynamics allowed us to know when the dirt is, somebody gonna do their dirt there. They're gonna go to the same Nassau County jail. If they actually have another offense, they might go upstate, up north, as they say. So all these dynamics during Reagan and Bush that were bestowed upon us, guns, drugs, taking the education out, devastating our community continuity. The antidote, we say everybody listening to this music, but there's a lot of people that ain't listening to this music, which allows us to go code. And our code, you're going to get yours. Message to a black man, public enemy number one. The logo and the target was designed off of me making that logo for Funky Frank and the Street Force. I just went to Right On Magazine, saw E Love standing next to LL Cool J, cut it out with my X-Acto knife, put a scope over it, like boom, okay, that's a logo. Oh man, when it first came out, people in Texas said, man, you trying to target cops. I said, no, that's the same hat, the fedora that Run DMC and E Love wore. And that explained to them, because they thought like, you go to state troopers, they got that wide brim in Texas and places like that. Yeah, it's like, no, not you. Really, it's us.
Yeah, this is us.
And we in the scope of y'all, you know what I'm saying? And for a lot of different reasons, not to shoot us, but look, our community's taking out what we shooting ourselves.
But Chuck, we've never seen hip hop like that. There's certain things. We've seen revolution, we've seen it, but we've never seen hip hop. And even with
even since when people say, well, what's Public Enemy today? There ain't none. Because we was never a solo situation. See, what happened in the majors, once they start getting acts, they start breaking up groups and have soloists. And the soloists, you can easily renegotiate, or renegotiate if it came down to it. You're not going to have 5 or 6 people in the room and be like, I don't like that one and all that. So all you got to do is look at all the funk bands. All the funk bands that ruled in the 80s, man. Even when they did Budweiser Superfest, it'd be, oh, man, we got Lakeside, we got Zap, we got, Parquets, and you see 10 or 12 people on the stage. They said, we got to stop the Posse thing.
Right.
And then throw some money in there where somebody showed that they got money as an individual. Then everybody said, well, I got to get that money too. Money is never the answer. Money can actually feed all your people and provide opportunities to make you go on and on past the break of dawn. But it's got to be a lot of it in order for you to say, we want to rival the machine. We want to be just like rock and roll rock guys. They got bigger money. They got bigger venues. They got everything. So you can't measure yourself in the area of money because you're never going to have that money, because your money's going to have to go 1,000 ways. And their money might go 4 ways to Ringo.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then sometimes when we see solo artists, even in basketball, remember like in basketball, they'll tell you like, yeah, he ain't got no money compared to when he started out because he had to pay all his homies and got his family. Understand, that's the joy that person wants to have to replenish their soul. Yeah, okay. They don't get a chance to take the $200 million to their crib and stack it on the shelf. However, what should be remembered was the time that they were able to give and share. And a lot of times that's forgotten and they should be reminded. And a lot of times it goes in one good story goes bad. Instead of going into our memory banks and saying, the time we had was the time that was unbelievable.
Right,
and we tip our hat. Like even with crews, or you work with a team and all that. People that work with a situation should say, you know what, man? I'm doing my thing over here. You doing your thing. God bless you. But the time we had together,
we came, we saw, we
did
conquered.
That shit.
Remember that.
And that's the beauty that we all possess. You know what the currency of revolutions around the sun, or are you able to enjoy your memories? Because that's your fuel. We only get 100 years to play around with. Some get tip over, but really, and many, unfortunately, which is some of the issues I talk about in Radio Armageddon, like this Black Don't Dead, which is like, and you a poster man for like a person that says, you know what, man, I'm the temple, I'm gonna turn the thing around. Because really, serious, we say things kind of lazily because we think it's organically bestowed upon us that we're invincible. You know, like, oh yeah, black don't crack. Yeah,
Right.
but it can die. Black don't crack, but it can die. And a lot of times we go into old vernaculars with a different world, when it was different things in the air and different things in our food that have mutated our existence. So we got to look at them even harder nowadays, even if you're eating something that you think is good. You know, like, well, oh man, if you look good, you feel good. No, no, no. If you feel good, you'll end up looking good.
Right.
And what makes you feel good is things that you take in, not just what comes to your mouth. What are you taking through here? What are you taking through here?
Chuck, when you go in, is the music and the message, is that intentional?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think the music and the message are intentional because you should exude who you are. What's inside you, a songwriter. Why are you going to write something different? It's one thing to fantasize, and that's cool. But if you want people to believe the fantasy instead of yourself,
Right, right.
that gets in a shaky place. And be a fictional writer, you know. And okay, you're a fictional songwriter, cool, whatever. I think this is the new era over the last 25 years where people that wouldn't ever get a chance to talk and do an interview never got an interview before. They come to your show, get an interview, a few other places get an interview, and then nobody else is interviewing them. Because people would deem them on the other side like, whatever you got to say, nobody interested. And you talk about the same thing and this and that, and nobody had time to get into the details. Everybody is full of details.
Was
and
there a resistance early?
On me?
Yeah. As far as, because you guys were saying a lot, even with Rick Rubin, with Def Jam,
Right.
you guys were saying things that we were like, yeah, you know.
Well, in the UK and internationally, our interviews is better than people's performances because the detail, and there was a music press in the UK and a music press in all those countries. So if they're going to talk to Bruce Springsteen and they're going to have 4 pages of Born in the USA and they get into the nitty-gritty detail, they couldn't get that out of a rap artist before us because, you know, it was like they were younger, you know, they were in the
Probably
middle of
not
a
as
lot of
vocal.
different, you know, things that they, you know, it's like, you know, rock roll, you know, we want to go here, eat this, eat, you know, like the girls and all that. So they felt that it wasn't enough substance to ask them questions, and then they wasn't really getting answers for their questions anyway. Public Enemy, every question you ask, you're going to get asked 3 questions back. Then they were like, what the fuck is this? And you want to talk about the 3-page interview? It was 5 pages. And then it got to a point so much as like I got overconsumed with interviews, so Griff would handle a bunch of interviews. James Bond would handle some interviews. Flav not doing interviews. Terminator's silent. So, you know, Griff was my right-hand guy on alleviating the amount of interviews. And here's another thing. Listen, if you're going to talk to him, you're going to get a dose of what that is over there.
Right,
So if you push the bear, you're going to get the bear from that aspect. Doesn't mean it's the Public Enemy point of view.
Right.
I'm the songwriter. So I know what everybody's angle is to a point. I could speak a little bit for Flav, to a point.
Right.
I could speak a little bit for Griff, to a point. I could represent the DJ element and all these things to a point. I'm like, somebody on the turntables, can I represent and really speak fully for that? Hell no, I can't DJ worth shit.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But I could bring it to a point at the end of the day. This is a group effort that's talking about hip-hop and how we can change the world.
Do you have, like, when we think about soundtracks, right?
Yes.
And a soundtrack to Public Enemy, I could go on and just start naming. Like, I'd never heard, so, like, even now, somebody say, oh, man, don't believe the hype. Were we saying don't believe the hype before don't believe the hype? Just like the same way I asked LL Cool J.
Yes.
Was we saying GOAT
Right.
before you came with greatest of all time? When LL Cool J said Uncle L, future of the funk, we call him Uncle L. L was like, what, 20, 21, 22? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so when
man.
we think about
LL's
certain
phenomenal
songs,
with words. And I saw that interview. It's just like, to be able to, and this is my LL plug. I mean, I come after LL in that wave of this super, I don't even say superstar, this super whatever you want to call it. And so it's easy for me to ride in that little lane of that wave. But, he created a lot of vernaculars in there, you know what I'm saying, that he doesn't get credit for because he was a songwriter and it's just spewing out of him in creativity. Me, kind of similar. But then again, how you going to be a good writer if you ain't a good reader?
right?
So when you talk about Biggie or LL, listen, a lot of the best writers in hip-hop and rap music have been nerds. Tupac was a nerd.
Right.
This whole thing
Ice Cube
afterwards,
would
like
tell you I wrote in college. You know what I'm
you
saying?
man, gangsters is gangsters for real. Real gangsters do real things in real time. And they sometimes often live or not live to regret it, and they'll tell you. Back in the day where I come from, they tell you, like, you don't want to do this. You do that.
Yeah.
And then in my
Even
neighborhood,
take care of you, like, no, man, like.
in my neighborhood, everybody had their lane. My lane was not even music. It was like, art, we playing ball, I'm dirty, you know what I'm saying? I got to clean myself up before I talk to a girl. You got the pretty boys over there. Look, I grew up down the street from Eddie and Charlie Murphy. Eddie come to the same park. He a year younger than me. He go to the handball court with shoes and slacks, only looking to talk to the girls and tell jokes and box. That's the only thing he talked about. Everybody had their own lane. We knew where the thugs was. We like, yeah, they over there. They not fucking with us. We not fucking with them. If we fight, boom. That changed with guns and drugs because you can't fight a gun.
Right.
You can't fight a gun. And trust me, I remember in my country town of Roosevelt, there was one dude that shot somebody in 1975, and the biggest question in the whole town was, how did he get a gun?
Wow.
Now, I don't know the dynamics of when that turning point happened in Los Angeles, because I know there was a time, because we used to watch all the shows, What's Happening and all that. And I said, it looked just like Roosevelt. We knew back in the 70s, you squabbed and you fought.
Yeah, man.
And many times cats fought and ended up being friends with that person the same night.
And guns wasn't the thing.
Guns wasn't the thing.
I think guns too in LA, guns got introduced and I mean to a whole different level when cocaine came in the game.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Because you got to protect your stash.
Things that was, it was brought in, shit just kind of, it felt like, Chuck, like things appeared.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like the same way when it was just something going on and say, all of a sudden all these bricks came in and people were able to bust these windows. That's the way it felt like with guns. It just became, when we think of Night of the Living Bassheads for real, that Night of the Living Basshead shit was so real out here, bro.
So take my eyes. It's been around since 1960, bro. Everything I've seen, having to be sent home after Dr. King was assassinated, all that culminated in my writing. You got to read, but also you got to read people. You got to read society. You also got to know who you are. If you knew who you are and you're looking at society happening, coming at you, you get the ability to slow things down.
Did you
When I became an artist, I'm sorry,
when
I became an artist, the first thing I had to be able to figure out how to slow time down, how to slow the room down. Everything coming at you, you focal point. So you got to see the room clearer than everybody else see the room. They looking at you, you see in the room. You're not just looking at this, that. You see in the whole room. Security became more of a mainstay because not everybody's eyes were everywhere. And then what you're putting out there is an adversarial type of vibe and energy anyway. Eventually, security is going to become the thing. And I'll leave with this small point before the next question. I want your autograph. 5 people come to you. You spend the time to get those 5 people away and get to where you're going. And even sometimes you might have been taught to be arrogant and about your time, and they trying to interrupt your time. So instead of handling those 5 people in a matter of 20 seconds, you got to have something to keep them off, which might take 2 minutes. Fast forward that into how to handle crowds. You ask Ice Cube to this day that me in a short area of time that I don't want to say meant I big brothered Ice Cube when we did America's Most
Oh my
Wanted.
God, bro.
And Cube was looking to come out of NWA. First, he just wanted a solo record. They had time or the day to do that within that system. And he was like, man, I could do this right now. We toured together in 88, 89. Matter of fact, the first records of It Takes a Nation a Million, I have the copies I had on the Dre and Easy. You know, they opened it up and you know, in 87 doing Dope Man, and us and Eric B. and Rakim, and they all had clocks around their necks and baseball hats and jerry curls. So, you know, Cube, I told him, I said, listen, man, the thing with it, with your time and space, you're already a star. But now you're going to be an individual star, so it's a different level of intensity that you got to handle. You can knock a crowd coming to you in like 10, you know, in 2 minutes of 100 people. But you got to kind of like spin and deal with it. He learned that technique. Another thing, the first thing we learned is like, don't repeat yourself twice. And then you don't have to grow into like where I'm at in Public Enemy. If you want to do a change, you could graduate gradually through your art and your records. So his next record was Kill It Will. The next record, you know what I'm saying? So he bumped up bit by bit to the Bean Pies. You know
Yeah.
You know
Death certificate. I got you.
He ain't come overnight like boom. You know, I mean, his intro was on Burn Hollywood Burn. And that thing happened just like he's sitting on the couch, and me and Kane been talking about getting together and doing this song, and he's on the couch trying to find producers of this project, and Q was like, I want to get on that. And we both looked at him like, shit, why not? The biggest thing with that record was, can you get 3 record companies to agree?
Right.
Could you get 3 plantations
Yeah.
to agree on their slaves getting together?
And whose record is it?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Hey man, when you go through your catalog of music, do you remember what certain records felt like at the time? Like,
Exactly.
do you remember what Fight the Power felt like?
Exactly. I ain't smoked, I ain't drank, so I tell people all the time. And that happened because I was a designated driver.
Right.
Listen, we had wild ass clubs, man, with cats snorting cocaine on the turntable. So I'd be like, yeah, Long Island iced teas and all that. So I would be like, I'm the designated driver. I was afraid of being paralyzed. I was following the 1981 Indiana Hoosiers championship with Isaiah Thomas, and Landon Turner was damn near the MVP. And not too long after, I heard Landon Turner got in a car accident and he got paralyzed. And that struck fear in me. I was like, damn. Nah, I'm the designated driver. I don't care if you're doing your da-da-da. I don't care if you're drinking the da-da. I'm driving. So that really, on top of me being a whack athlete, said I'm not touching drink or drugs because I got to drive the car because we're going to get home safe. You know what I'm saying? So that's where that really came from. So I remember every second. That's why I put out books. I've done 8 illustrated books. And my latest book is called Intervisual Intelligence, but it's really subtitled The Moments That Met Me. So I'm able to take every moment I've experienced in my life and draw it as I saw it.
So what is Fight the Power for you at that time? Because when we fast forward, well, when we go in the rearview mirror, Fight the Power just as a video, as a song, you know, and that's when soundtracks had, you know, we went on and we got soundtracks.
Yeah.
So when we look in the rearview mirror, genius. But take me through looking through the windshield. Like, when did you know? How did Fight the Power come together?
Initially, Spike Lee's put his 3rd movie together. He comes out of nowhere. Big renaissance period in music, art, film. She's Gotta Have It, went to school days. Shit, he had Kadeem Hardison wear Public Enemy sweatshirt, my design. He wore that in the movie. We became tight. He part of that whole thing. Bill Stephanie, Spike Lee, they all lived in Brooklyn doing their own little thing as black people coming up. Spike says, I'm working on another movie. talking about all this BS that's going on in New York. There's a radio station called WLIB, and for the first time, the black community in New York got connected through this one radio station. People call in. It really was Percy Sutton's station, the sister station of WLIB on the AM side, but it turned into talk radio. And all the scholars and the giants came through LIB. Heroes, Gary Bird, who used to do the music, but he's on the talk radio side, and all the people got their thing together calling the radio station. Small AM radio station, part of the WBLS Inner City family. So whenever we had a problem, because there was no reason for somebody in Brooklyn to go to the Bronx or give a damn about it. They in two different places. Just like Watson Compton. It's like, all right, but once you start talking together, you on the same common wavelength. Yeah, y'all ain't getting your garbage taken out either. Yeah, and they ain't set that thing up there. All of a sudden, black communities start getting united and consolidated. That's what led to David Dinkins being the first black mayor, because you had the black community said, no, we just not over here. We everywhere. But you still had that racism that was leaking out to say, yeah, it's New York City, but some communities gonna get taken care of, and others ain't. And we gonna do the same old bullshit to the communities that ain't got their shit together. Spike said, man, I'm gonna make a movie about all of this and what's happened and what has happened, chasing, people down, killing old ladies and stuff like that, and business as unusual still going on. So Spike Lee makes Do the Right Thing. And he said, I'm making a movie about all this, down to the radio station. Remember, the radio station is the key in Do the Right Thing.
Yeah.
Because who do you have? Samuel L. Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
And it starts out that way and it ends that way because he's communicating to all the folks because we on radio. So, and this is the communicator, the connection. So Spike says, I just need an anthem. So me, Bill, Hank, I'm in the middle of coming off a tour, getting ready to go on the Run DMC Public Enemy UK Europe tour. And this is October. And Spike says, I'm putting together, I need an anthem. This is 88, October 88.
Oh my God.
And okay, anthem, if you want Public Enemy to do it. Now, we don't, Spike says, cool. I want to see if y'all could do a hip hop version of Lift Every Voice and Sing. So Hank immediately like, nah. so we agreed to disagree and all that. So we'll form this record as we're doing it. So in my mind, I was like, damn, an anthem. So to me, I start writing records from words, from the title. If I come up with a great title, then it's easy to fill it up. It's like you got a jug, right? So you fill up the jug. You just don't drink something out of a glass. So the jug will shape it. And of course, Isley Brothers, Fight the Power. When I was 15 years old, it's the first record I heard with a curse in it. I didn't hear the curse.
All this bullshit
exactly.
going down.
You listen to the radio and they playing it 6 times a day. And like all this going down. It's like, okay, wow. Fight the Power's a big record. The Isley Brothers is gods. How they don't have a documentary on them is and I heard they coming. But it's like the Isley Brothers timeline from the 50s shout to anything that Ernie and Ron Isley want to do.
Oh yeah.
Is the timeline of my life. My whole life is the Isley Brother timeline, just like Motown. So that's the theme. So I remember being on the plane. Here's another trivia. I'm on the plane. We going from UK to fly to Rome. And sitting behind me is DMC, Jay by the window, Griff a couple rows back, Flavor up there at the top. We on the same plane, taking a tour into Rome, and it snapped. I said, oh, that's when my bars came in. And I actually said a couple of the DMC, he didn't know what it was about. He said, yeah, I like that, And Jay was like, okay, cool, yeah. And Jay, to me, Jay is our union leader. And if anything that we miss more than ever is Jay's absence, man. I'll tell you, that man was our union leader. Just real connector of generation.
Yeah, man.
Never ever treated fairly and just as he should have been. So we come land in Rome, and I had the fabric of what it was. When the tour's over, I get back, record or whatever, and it had a couple of inclinations, and Spike was like, I need it now. It was like February. And it was like, it ain't even done yet. It's like half baked. It's like, like it's in the kitchen, like it's batter. He said he needed it now. So when he finally put the movie together, right, we go to the screening in Brooklyn. He wanted to get a pre-screening. We go there in Brooklyn, and it's not the one. It's like kind of like demo stage, 60%. But Spike was like, fuck that, I got to put it in there for the screening. And it would come on. Every time I heard this record, it comes on again. It comes on again. He must have put this thing in the movie at least 9 times. I'm like, who the hell does this? And it wasn't the version. So all those little things that you say you need to tighten this record up, you hearing it come back at you. Oh, damn, yo, we got to finish this record. When we finally finished the record, then it came out. We knew that it had to be like, and it was a soft record for us. It was a compromise. It was a kumbaya,
Really?
peaceful record for. I mean, it wasn't Rebel Without a Pause.
Right.
I'm like, welcome to Terrordome, man. Come on, man. Like, yeah. And Fight the Power was like this thing that says, yo, bro, it's love. But it's hectic and frenetic.
It felt like that to you.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Because soon as you come out and you say, yo, when as soon as you hear that 1989, a number, another song, I'm like, oh,
I'm the sample finder because I'm writing the lyrics. So before you get the, oh, this is Rick James.
Mm-hmm.
I can't, usually you admit these things, but they all know what it is by now. I got like 8 different things going on there, from the dramatics, get down, get down, all that, all to the, which is Trouble Funk backwards. I mean, that's how we did. We did music to not exploit the sound, but to use the sound, to tie it together. But before you even get to the 30 seconds in, you done went through a time capsule of the bibliography of black music before you get to the first word, and that comes from the DJ aesthetic, and that style got eradicated by lawyers and record companies and all that 2 years later, because the West Coast guys became real good at cram sampling, and then the lawyers come in. Then the lawsuits happen, like with Bismarck and people like that. Change the game. But you know what? Full cycle to right now, in 2025, it has answered itself in another technique that I can't go into. But I know my man C-Doc, that put together the Radio Armageddon, with his whole sudden right turns. He studied under the Bomb Squad tutelage and blueprint. So he has reintroduced styles that are so similar, beat changes. Now, back in the day in New York, in the 70s, an MC rhymed, but they had beat changes underneath them. Mm-hmm. And the quality and the style of the MC, or the prowess of the MC, was, can you rhyme with the DJ doing beat changes underneath you? Because you couldn't call your own beat.
Right.
The DJ dictated, you can't ride it, you off the mic. Matter of fact, to get that mic is a blessing. Now you can't ride the beat. DJ's like, get out of here, man. Matter of fact, if he got to do it nicely, all he do is this. This is a Keith Shockley move. Somebody on the mic, he do this.
Damn. So you're like, yeah, never. Like, no, brother, you off.
It's it.
Did you know what Fight the Power was? Could you hear it before we heard it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know why? Spike put it in 10 times.
Yeah.
Spike Lee made Fight the Power,
now,
bro.
one of the
originals. You know what another? One thing that made me think Fight the Power finally was a record on its own, because today people don't connect the film to the record, because, I mean, it's transcended generations. Matter of fact, they don't even, I've talked to so many people who are knowledgeable, they don't even know the Isley Brothers did a Fight the Power. Mm-hmm. I tell people it's the second Fight the Power. And then, and also what determined that was Do the Right Thing. And I was like, what is that? What's Do the Right Thing? So, but the first time I heard it in that real time was not anywhere else but K-Day.
Oh, really?
And J.J. Johnson played that record.
J.J. Johnson.
J.J. Johnson played that record and made me, for the first time, from the outside listening in, I heard J.J. Johnson play. Oh, here's his Fight the Power. There's not too many things I like, but this is something I play over and over again. I was like, what?
Man, Fight the Power. And I remember, and correct me if I'm wrong,
Yes,
Chuck,
sir.
this your record. On the Elvis was a hero to most. Alrighty. Was there a version that just had Elvis was a hero to most, but he never meant shit to me because he was straight up racist? The sucker was simple and plain, motherfuck him and John Wayne. Was there a version that didn't go Elvis was a hero to most, Elvis was a hero, or did it always have the triple threat?
No, Hank was also a fan of having the Latin DJs come in and put that little da-da-da, real tight edits. So I think he got one of the guys, not Pinky Velasquez, but I forgot who did that particular edit, but it was an edit that was right on time. But yeah, the Elvis line came from the fact, really, seriously, like, I grew up, Elvis was this dude who was bloated with Nixon talking about guns and drugs. That everybody said, oh my God, and we already had our heroes. So it was only brought up because in Do the Right Thing, Giancarlo Esposito says, Sal, how come no black people on the wall? So this was like, okay, we got our heroes too. And that's your hero and icon, just like John Wayne. But it was kind of playing at Elvis, knowing it was going to touch a note. Because, I mean, growing up, Elvis was everywhere. And he was kind of, he was nice. He just wasn't king.
Right.
He was nice, a bad white boy. John Wayne definitely was with a POS at it, because I read Jim Brown's book. And Jim Brown's book, Out of Bounds, said John Wayne treated him like a piece of shit. So I said, oh, yeah, this is my jab at John Wayne. Because Jim Brown's a hero.
This is like Tyson getting back at, who was it Tyson getting back at?
Oh, right.
Was it,
yeah.
when he was like, who was that when Tyson said, I got back in there for Muhammad Ali, Larry Holmes?
Right.
Yeah, so your thing was
That's
like,
what that was.
Motherfuck him and John Wayne.
Jim Brown, also from Strong Island, man, was our hero.
When you say I'm
behind.
black and I'm proud already,
Yep.
I'm hyped plus I'm amped.
amped.
Most of my heroes don't appear on no stamps.
Yep.
That right there, bro.
Yep. Yeah, because, come on, up to 1988 when I wrote it, how many times you see black folk on TV?
Right.
Right? Even if we on Johnny Carson, are they getting the couch?
Right.
Even if they're in the radio, is a rapper really getting the mic on an interview? We even saw divisions of all this, we're going to talk to Karen White. No offense to Karen White, but she'll get the interview, and Sense of Silence can see they ain't getting no interview. You in the rotation, thank God. So we had to kind of like beat down barriers. That's why sometimes it pained me what happened in the early 2000s and the 90s, because I felt that there was a lot of things fought for just so a rapper could be seen and heard. But of course, you got to always inform generations of the shoulders that they stand on, because like a Houdini, how much roads did they put? I mean, Houdini paved so many roads for Public Enemy, man. I can't even begin. Today I see Grandmaster D. I'm trying to find how many opportunities can I find for you, D, or whatever. Davey D, Davey DMX, created that's just like, not only Davey D, let me tell you, and Davey D is our band leader. It's just that we're not using the band right now in our performances, and I tell people that, stay ready so you ain't got to get ready. Love Davey D. He's DJing with Curtis Blow on Bob Marley concerts. He makes the first instrumental that inspires Dr. Dre from the West and Dr. Dre from the East, called One for the Treble. He produces the Run's House album. You know what I'm saying? People like that. These are like my family. Even we working together right on the moment, or we not. And sometimes the conversation is like, you wish you could do so much for everybody at the same time. But you know what it is. The record industry, not the music industry. The record industry gave all the money to 7 people.
You know what's wild about when you say what Houdini did, and you're good, what LL did, you're good to pay homage. You know what I'm saying? And you give back to the community. But I'm sitting here with Busta Rhymes. And Busta Rhymes says the same things about you.
Yeah.
Like, leaders of the new school, how that came together, how his name came together.
Yeah.
And these are accolades that people throw. And I always tell people, I say, man, character is what's being said about you when you're not in the room. Anybody can say beautiful things about you when you're in the room.
Yeah.
But character is what's being said about you when you're not in the room, when you're not present. And people speak some of the best shit with your name connected to it. And then you gave us, when I say a soundtrack, you gave us so much, man. Like, literally, I lived and waited for a new Public Enemy album to come out.
Yeah.
I purchased tickets to go see Public Enemy. I studied Public Enemy. I'm talking about, because I'm like this, I can enjoy a concert like no one else. I can enjoy a concert. But I'm also looking at the concert like, why does he have the better mic? Why are all his homies standing to the side right here? Like I look at a concert a little different. And I remember at that sports arena when you guys came out and I heard Rebel Without a Pause live for the first time, I was like, oh shit. Because it was when I saw, Griffin come out and Security of the First World, and when I saw what was going on, and then the sound, people was like, oh, that's just loud, that's just loud. And then once we knew it, we never let that shit go. And I'm talking about Welcome to the Terror Dome. I'm talking about Bring the Noise. Like, there's so many anthems. Do you have, if you were to say a top 5 of Public Enemy records, what is Chuck D's top 5 and why? Is it because it's live? Is it because it's a feeling? What's your top 5?
Well, raking your children gets you in trouble. But luckily I ain't got more than 3. But I'm just saying that with Public, and I'll answer that in a quick second. With Public Enemy, our whole game is never disappoint. So that's just not on stage. If we in the middle of something, all of my guys are civilized gentlemen, mannerism. I mean, Terminator, Griff, Flav, man, they can't keep. We are. I don't want to say trained, but we are ordained to try to make you feel good about how you honor what we created. We've always been civil. Greatest guy. Sometimes amongst ourselves, it's a barbecue.
Right.
All right, yeah, I'll see you like next year. But that's amongst ourselves. Out in the world, you'd never find a person that had a problem with a Public Enemy member. When I name songs, I name things that happen to be along the timeline, because timelines with songs are like tree lines. You go, oh,
Right.
To me, when I want to come out and boom, boom, it's Welcome to Terror Dome. Bring the Noise, Harder Than You Think, which is a song that was made in 2007 on the album, ended up being our biggest international hit. Became a hit in 2012, and the theme for the Olympics out there. And it really, when I wrote it, it was being a culmination for when PE turned 20. And then the song was a song we used in our set for 4 years. We just used it in set because it was easy to do. I recorded it like on one take, which is rare for me. And Gary G. Wiz, produced so many great albums and Public Enemy songs, co-writer. Yo, man, it just came together. But it was just in our set. And all of a sudden, in 2012, it became this thing where, what? Like, you play in the United States and people be like, okay, I don't know that record. Why are they all going crazy? 100,000 people. And it ain't one of those off records that does something different. It's just that record that happened to be at that place to pay homage, because London has always been our headquarters. But I also remember the songs that we made out here. I Can't Trust It. And when we released that record was like a sledgehammer. Rebel Without a Pause, we knew that if I made that record based on how many things we did to go up to that, if I died right after I recorded it, I was like, it'd have a life without me. It was because that record came being inspired in a competitive way, but what Eric B. and Rakim were doing. Rakim and Eric B. ain't never made no mistakes. To me, in my
no.
the greatest I would say, so I have so many GOATs. But the most intimidating, devastating MC of all time is KRS-One. KRS-One walk in the room and he says, "Who's MCing?" And everybody be like, I'm just driving the truck.
Right.
They don't want to.
Hey man,
He's like
Chris
a
said
super martial artist.
he still write a diss record every year
I
just in case.
I don't understand it.
Yeah,
It's
just
more convenient to not believe he exists
right.
than to run in there. And that's what most people do. They're like, oh yeah, he from back then doing that from back then. So they think it's convenient not even dealing with that
Right.
hurricane or whatever, cause he most skilled rapper ever to me that I ever seen, Big Daddy Kane.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because his ability to shift gears. Why? To me as an MC, stamina is important.
Oh my God, bro.
You can't be a person that wrote a rhyme, can't do a rhyme.
And his not only did he write then and can do it,
Right.
no one thought, but you got to do that 10 years later,
Yes.
20 years later,
Yep.
30 years later.
Either you do the songs
35
or the
years
songs
later.
will do you. Imagine like I can't go and I got a concert what Friday. I can't go in and say, I used to be able to do Bring the Noise. Bro, then you gotta, and the thing about being on stage, that's a whole nother lifetime of understanding what you can do, how to pace yourself, what to stay
Right.
away from. I really learned from two situations. The first situation when I thought I was at the peak, what Public Enemy is different. It's like, we're not doing your record, and you definitely can't do our records. And so every record's got to stay to its own box. So I am thinking I could, because you got to body the song with Public Enemy. It's coming at you, got to body it. Then that other level was Anthrax.
Yeah. With Bring the Noise. Oh my God, bro.
Because they thrash metal. They're not even heavy metal. They speed metal, thrash metal, like that. And if you're performing with them, you can't check out. And now you're going to go into triplets when they thrashing. Never better than the bad because the brother is better than the man. The fact that the club, like you at triple the speed.
Oh my God.
And cats in the crowd, 10,000 deep is like, white boys are like this. So so there's only few I can have conversations with, like Iceberg. Iceberg's like my god brother.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And Berg, be like, Berg went in the body count, and then he told you threats with Ernie and all them. So I'd be like, yo, Berg, man, here we go again. Right? So yeah, so that's that type of thing. So naming my top 5, you get our ballads are like
Right.
Black Steel and Our Chaos. Don't Believe the Hype. Give It Up, He Got Game. He Got Game is the only time that a rap group did an entire soundtrack of a movie. Spike comes to us in 98, says I know more ball than, I was wanted to be a sportscaster. So I got rhymes inside the whole He Got Game soundtrack that they can't even figure out yet because they so much ball vernacular. So that's a record that people don't even, when they ask me about the catalog and they get to ask questions, even if they're a young head, they be like, oh yeah, I heard that. Oh yeah, it is bad. It's about ball. Yo, Unc. So the whole key I try to tell, and Daddy O is great at this too, because Daddy O, he's with, we have a split label share with my man C-Doc, who produced the Radio Armageddon. He's on Radio Armageddon on the first Shaving, not single, because we don't even have singles off Radio Armageddon. We have shavings. It's like like you had a big piece of meat that whatever lamb, and they make gyros on. It's not a single off of that because the album has no beginning or ending. So you shaved off New Gens. The next one shaved off is Black Don't Dead. And so Daddy O is on New Gens, and he gives his conventional version. Daddy O has done 6 albums in the last 6 years. He also did my favorite album of last year, which is on our label, Stetson Sonic. Here We Go Again is the name of the album. And that's a brilliant record. So on my rap station, Internetworks, and I created 2 apps, and not just like, oh yeah, my people did the apps. No, we created 2 apps. One, the Rap Station app, you could go to Really, you go to rstvapp.com. You get the Rap Station app at the Google Play stores and also iPhone stores. And also the biggest thing we created was the Bring the Noise app, which works like TikTok 35 and up. But Bring the Noise app has been phenomenal. We have about 7,000 users. When you start getting into having users come up, your biggest issue, security.
Really?
Yeah, man, you kidding? Anytime you see an app out there that people use, it's $1 billion app because they got places to secure it. So if you go on the X, you go on, people like, oh man, I'm on Instagram and I'm on, Facebook or WhatsApp. You understand they got buildings to secure so you don't go in there. Even Chat GPT and all those, they're being corrupted now because you could go in, they're just being attacked, and then you need power for AI. It absorbs a lot of power to power AI. And that's why you see Elon Musk act a fool. He's going to cities like Memphis and building towns in Texas. It ain't just about SpaceX. He's building these gigantic power sources that's draining resources, but also having the app work on your phones. And it got to be powered by somewhere. So I don't know. Those are areas that I deal with when I talk about rap, race, reality, and technology. I've never deviated off of those 4 subjects. I already released 10 books. Most importantly, they got a book coming out now. I taught a year course at UCLA with a lot of scholars bringing me in to Mester 2, including my former, and then we hooked up and to hook up a program at UCLA, and it's going to come out and culminate in a documentary and a book. But that's on their power. My thing is like, what can I actually contribute that people could get and have light shown on their work and their skills, and then go off and do their thing. My pride, my joy, my smile comes off of people that could do their thing. And when they do their thing, I'm like, yeah, go, man, because I like to be a fan, man.
Are you a fan first?
I'm a fan first, man. I like to be the OG that don't say nothing, sit on that porch and be like, you know what I'm saying? And I ain't got no corn liquor next to me, and I ain't got a dog on the other side, but I'm that dude, you know what I'm saying?
I do want to ask you this. When we think about Farrakhan, Black Panther, the Panther Party, the songs that you given to us, and it's almost like a KRS-One thing, man. There was so much edutainment.
Yes,
my first introduction to Brother Khalid Abdul Muhammad was through you guys.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Some of my great teachings from Farrakhan came from hip-hop records and then making me go and find the final call and finding a mosque and things like that. When you think about how righteous you guys are and the way that we stood up with you, man, and we put our hands up, did it trip you out when the white people started showing up?
No, they showed up at day one because I was on the Beastie Boy tour. Rick Rubin signs me with Russell, but I'm Rick signing, not Russell. But, later on, Russell got it. But in the beginning, remember Rick saw something. He was like, I got to have him. I got to have what they do. And I turned it down for 2 years, which really is, it boils down to this. And I know you understand this, bro. You write half of life. Life writes the other half, whether you like it or not. Yeah, we could go 45% here, 55% here, whatever. But, we made a record, Gary G. Wiz it was one of my favorite Public Enemy records, Man Plans, God Laughs. And Dr. J said that, and I think that came from a Yiddish saying or whatever. But, Dr. J told me, he said, yeah, man plan, God laughs, but plan anyway. But you got to make a plan, and you got to write out your script. But also, don't be surprised if something else writes that script. Yes. And then, I got my plans. I think I'm going to do this. And you find out you doing this. I like this. I know you had a plan.
Yeah.
And then you surprised that, well, this came up. Yeah. And now I'm doing this thing over here. I couldn't see it.
Yeah.
Everybody
that's with me with radio.
There you go.
I never was like, I want to get into radio. I was throwing everything kind of against the wall. And I was so open. I love entertainment.
Right.
And I love being around. That's why I was a bodyguard for the Far Side. That's why I'm a DJ. I had hip hop lines where you called and found out what was going on at these. I just love being around it.
Right.
And when I'm looking this way, and it was like, man, hip hop. I want to rap. I want to DJ. I did it all. And then all of a sudden it was like, yeah, I got a call from this guy at radio, and it went.
Exactly.
And I was like, oh, okay.
Exactly.
But then I wasn't scared. I was prepared.
Right.
And I was ready for it. I had my outliers. I had 10,000 hours plus, and all I had to do was go in there. I remember the guy that hired me, Chuck. He said, "I could teach you radio, but I can't teach you personality." And he was like, "You got it."
There you go.
And from there, I'm in year 31 right now, bro. And like E40 would say, we veterans are relevant at the same damn time.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's more of a beautiful picture than it ever was. But also, do you have the vision to see what is there? Like an old head like me, for example, I was explaining this earlier. And this is something that comes if you really want to pay attention to it or not. But it's not no unique thing. But when you're reminded of it, you're like, oh, you ever walk through the neighborhood, right? It could be your neighborhood you grew up with or whatever. And you see the new buildings. Yeah. Don't you see the old buildings?
Yep.
At the same time?
Yeah.
Matter of fact, you even see some of the old people that might not even be anymore.
Literally, I had this conversation, I think yesterday, where there's a spot in Culver City that's like, because now Culver City downtown is popping.
Right.
But when I go there, there's a hotel that used to be abandoned. And I think it was like in a Terminator movie. It was like the scary hotel. Now it's the hotel.
Right.
But when I look at it,
exactly,
I see the old hotel.
You seeing it through the third eye and the back eye. See, when new generations come up, new gens, they only see it for what it is. You see beyond that.
Right.
As you age even further, if you have your eyesight, even when you don't have your eyesight, you start seeing things that's why, you talk to elders, and they could be close to transitioning. What they talk about, what they just say, yeah, I saw Frank. You did? You start to see things because you're the biggest computer on the planet Earth that they've always been trying to match is the human brain, which we only use 10% of. Matter of fact, some of us, including myself, I don't want to know what that other 90% is like.
Right. Can you, man? Yeah. Yeah. Don't explore.
Don't explore.
Hey, man, what is the new album about, and why is it so important for you to continue to do what you do?
The record pretty much is a culmination, and it's a sneaky bounce pass, not even meant to be liked, to be part of a full circle Def Jam moment. I had a conversation with Tunji, who's the CEO over at Def Jam, a couple of years ago. Belogan, young brother from the Bay Area, head of Def Jam. I've come there to say, listen, I'm coming there to figure out, okay, you guys taking care of catalog, or how can we better take care of catalog, not just of me, but how's the Slick Rick thing going on? You see, in the rock world, they don't play around. Right. I'm not even talking about Led Zeppelin, Rolling Stones, The Who, the Beatles. No, that might as well be on another planet in another heaven. I'm talking about the caretaking, the curation, the lawyer, legal analysts, right, of Def Leppard, Spiral Gyra, Styx, Foreigner, REO Speedwagon, groups that we were like, hey, yeah, if they was in the top, if you said rock group, where would they rank in the top 50? They ain't even getting in the top 50. But their curation of their catalogs, let me tell you, they got 500 rock groups, and each one of their legacies, their legal departments, their family structures around it.
Gotcha.
When it comes down to the black music, well, we got 2 or 3 lawyers that could do it. Well, maybe I'll turn you on over here. Look at a desert with a whole bunch of things strewn all over the ground. There's never been done yet. So how about when we go on into streaming, after we've gone from this in the stores or retailers, who's there to negotiate my points on this new Ohio players? Well, I don't know, but all Ohio players are dead. How about their family?
Right.
Well, their family kind of know, kind of don't know. Well, where's this? You know what I'm saying? It's never now. This level has floated downward in hip hop and rap. Yes, it's going to be a lawyer that's going to be there for Kendrick Lamar. It's going to be a lawyer that's there for Dre.
Right.
They're going to be the same lawyers there for LeBron James and all. But okay, how about Skee-Lo? He had a hit record. How about the Far Side catalog? Is there enough of a legal administration lawyer body to curate and caretake for that and its growth into the 21st century? I like to be the Quincy Jones in the middle of these mixes.
I heard that.
So me going into Def Jam, it's not about a product, but you know what? Cool. This is the dude, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Radio
yeah.
Armageddon is the dude. Bring a lot of artists in. I've been having an independent record label with artists and coming in. We are almost like a guild and all that. Def Jam saw it like, hey, Chuck, you could bring, a couple of your projects over here. But when Tunji might be between a situation and another situation, it'd be about a South by Southwest panel, I'll go there. Yeah, I could be his Tom Hayden, his Consigliere. Oh, you got, an artist over there. Needs my advice. I'll sit, you know what I'm saying? That's me going back into Def Jam, but not just being Def Jam, but also telling the other majors it's time to understand and look at this music that you guys got to be accountable and responsible to the artists.
So this is more of, it's not a I and me, it's a us and we.
Oh, you always take that me and turn that M and turn it upside down. You gotta do that, bro. And here's another thing. I think my man C-Doc, he's like, I call him the Brian Eno of rap, because his development, his style with these rappers doing their style over a radio station that sounds like DJ Shadow versus Paul Boutique with Wu-Tang Clan hanging outside, dipped in an acid. It's as crazy artistic as it want to be. And it doesn't look to appeal, but what it's going to appeal to is who digs it and grows from there.
Chuck, man, I appreciate you, brother.
Oh, man, we got to do this.
Chuck,
And
I would have went longer.
Time,
I'm bursting into flames in this motherfucker, though. Shit, you know what I'm saying? It's like, hey, Bishop, can you bring me a little wipe in this motherfucker or something? Yeah, hand me something, shit. Man, we're not done. I'm just crack the door open, give me some air in this motherfucker. Hey, man, but I could talk to you, all, bro, and I don't even think I scratched the surface.
Now we don't. That's usually the case. It's like I've written 10 books. It's not. I haven't written an autobiography. There's no way that I could encapsulate, because it sprouts into other people doing brilliant things. So there's. But when these new things happen these days, like for example, I could never conceive inventions like Netflix, where you watch. Thank you. You watch a Netflix thing over 18 episodes.
Right.
Was, before it used to be what cutting floor.
Yeah, man.
On the cutting room floor. But now you watch something, and all the cutting room stuff is up there. So they got new ways with new tools and new technologies to make people enjoy content in a different way. And I think it's a beautiful time. But you got, like I said earlier, like when you walk through you got to be able to see it. Mm-hmm. And the people got to be able to see, like, wow, yo, help me, big boy. I'm trying to get put on, man. And you be like, get put on to what? And all these opportunities around you. Bruce Lee said it best. I can't teach you a damn thing. I only can help you explore yourself.
And I flow like water. Brother, I appreciate you, Chuck.
Thank you, bro.
Man, come on, man.
Yeah, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you for being you, too, brother.
My brother from another mother 3,000 miles away. I could never anticipate that growing up.
Man, shit. Me? Come on, bro. This is wild for me, man. I'm like, dude, this is Chuck D. I appreciate it, bro.
I'm just one of the ones. That's all.
There it is, man. Off air, Chuck D, big boy. Hello. Thank you. My pleasure.